Hey Isaac, you should make a video, man.
Do do ba 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 ship it bow.
This one's in the bag.
Alright, so now you can understand why I never have a good opening to things, and I just click record and I start talking.
Yeah.
It always feels lame just to be there beforehand and be like, how are we going to open it? What's the bit going to be? As somebody who's been sitting next to you for 20 minutes, I'll just pretend like, oh, hey, you're there.
Well, I mean, like, you usually start off with a shoop-a-dop.
That's like, yeah, but I was back alone in an apartment when I was doing that.
Okay.
So normally I would just, like, make dinner or whatever. And then I would just be like, okay, it's time to record the video. I want to talk about my day. I kind of have to transition to this. Ooh, got a cramp going on?
Nope.
Gas?
Nope.
Baby kick?
Yeah.
Nice.
But, like, a lot of them at once.
Okay.
Yeah.
Was she doing anything during the...
Yeah.
Nice. So then, anyways, we were going to sit down and record a video, and then I accidentally made Tiani cry. So then we just watched some YouTube for a bit before getting back to this. Now, if anything describes our life for the past couple of months in a nutshell, that's probably it.
It be that way sometimes.
It be that way sometimes. Anyways, we have hot tea, and I was wearing a cardigan previously. I still gotta think that I gotta add.
You took it off so I wouldn't cry on it.
No, it's because it's getting warm, and I haven't turned the AC on for the evening yet, and I'm drinking hot tea. So I'm just like, the cardigan's a little redundant right now. So let's see. Anyways, when was it that we were talking about my D&D, my old D&D campaign last week?
Exactly last week, Wednesday.
Oh, really? Oh, wow.
Yeah, because we were talking about it when we went to New York Deli.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and you were like, we should treat ourselves.
Yeah, and we wanted to make sure that we were back before Wednesday night church. You're right.
Mm-hmm.
And then that was when like, oh yeah, Dave's having a baby.
Your beard hair was in my eye.
What?
I just picked out one of your beard hairs.
Like recent, like just now?
Just now, from my eye.
Okay, okay, you got tears in my cardigan, and I got beard hair in your eyes.
Yeah.
This is equal exchange.
Okay.
I would love. Have you ever seen Full Metal Alchemist?
Yeah.
That would be like the law of alchemy.
Gross. I feel like...
Dude, like, he, like, cleans dirt off of one of his arms, and then he's like, my elbow is unreasonably dirty. Haha, equal exchange. The dirt went to another place. It's the lamest alchemist ever.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, so Dave had a baby.
Yeah, then anyways, there
was the church meeting.
The church meeting where they voted on things. But then that was when we had talked about, I'm like, oh, hey. And then you had talked about drawing the maps before, which is, like, way better than anything I ever did.
It was so hard to do. But you had a whole, like, hexagon-y thingy going on.
Thing? Yeah, we'll get into that. So then, anyways, I was just like, oh, hey, we should, like, record a thing, because I haven't recorded a thing in a while. I thought this would be a fun thing, and it'd be something I could talk to you about.
Yeah.
I like talking to you.
I like listening to talking to you. But about me.
I don't know what that means. I like listening, talking to you. So, but you said
listening to talking to you, but about me.
Okay. We'll just do a solid okay there.
Well, I think the but about me immediately makes it, yeah, same.
Oh, yeah,
me
same.
too.
I remember the point where I knew I had, like, the gig was up early on in our marriage when you realized that me saying okay was I don't understand and I don't want to address it. The whole time we were dating before that, I think you just thought it was like, oh, he's being reasonable, and he's accepting things. And then, like, you saw my face of just like, okay.
Yeah, like that time at Calvert's. Do you want another Riptide? Okay.
It's so
I think I just ordered another beer.
Yeah, it shows absolute, like, me trying to be, like, average and normalcy, which comes from complete lack of understanding. So then, anywho, let's see. So, you saw a good amount of Zenra, which we'll probably end up regurgitating over parts of this conversation. But yeah, we were talking about the map, so I actually got a map for it, which was actually kind of unintentional. So when I started playing at D&D initially, which was the Adventurers Guild, I think is what it is, at some place out on the airport to the right. We went there and like what? It's like a car lot now or something.
Was it the comics place that you said? Or
No. The comics place was the second place where I played D&D. That one that I was like, we should go visit there sometime. And then it was just like a building on the side of the road with a bunch of cars.
Oh.
Yeah, that place. Game Space. That was what it was called. Game Space. So one of the guys there, he had that same mat that I have, and he was like, "Oh yeah, this is super cheap. It's only like $20." And I'm like, I normally don't need this, so I'm not buying it. But when I get my own homebrew, I'll buy one because it'll be super great. And yeah, that's whenever like you just have people over and play your own D. That's what it's called.
Okay.
Because when you're doing like a prefabricated adventure, I can't remember what they would call it now. When you're doing it from one of the books, I guess you're just doing a campaign, you know, in the same way like for the king or whatever, we would do it for the king. You do a campaign. Technically, it's a campaign when you're doing it at home, but it's like somebody making it up.
Yeah.
So when we did that, I got it, and I saw that it had two sides to the map, two sides to the. Well, it wasn't a map at that point. Two sides to the. Mat. There you go. That's why I can think of the word. I was so confused. I'm like, well, this hexagonal side is just useless to me. I've never done D&D combat with hexagons, and this isn't 4th edition, so it's not designed for that. I can't use this. Might as well put something on it.
Yeah, you covered it.
Yeah. And then I was really bored at work, and I started building the map. And then there really actually, and this was how a lot of things went for my world, there was very little artistic reason behind anything at all. It was purely like the functional of like, this is the list of things it has to have, and so trying my best to like fit it together, the puzzle piece. So I guess you just mentioned that you had drawn maps. I hadn't really asked any other questions because I'm like, I want to figure out and ask this organically when I'm recording it. So I guess the initial question is like, how many maps overall did you draw? Is this like one? Was this two?
No, it was. I think since like my sophomore year of high school.
Which is your second year, right? Okay.
Yeah, it was while I was still here. I really wanted to write, and I thought like the best books have maps at the beginning.
I'm with you on that one. Because I feel like whenever you open one of those books, it's like, I have no idea what this map is.
Yeah.
But I feel like at some point in the book, I'm going to know what it is.
Yeah.
So you get to the end, and you're like, nope, still don't understand it.
Yeah. It's just like, wait a second. Here you were here, and then here you're here.
Yeah. Well, like, what? None of these places were in the book.
Yeah. It's like, they're like, this is the scar that was made when the dragon fell. And it's like, I see mountains. I see trees. What are you talking about? Yeah, but like, so, as a, young children do, it might have started off with fiction.
Oh, did you say the word fan fiction while drinking from the...
Yes.
That's sweet. Sorry, I didn't mean to pick up your fan fiction route to then post it on the internet.
No. But then, like, I was like, okay,
Okay, so real quick, is it fan fiction for a book cover that has fruit on the cover?
No.
Okay.
Ew.
You were reading it at the time.
No, I wasn't. I read that in middle school.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
No.
You're right, you were just watching the movies then.
Nope. I only watched up to like the second movie, and that came out when I was still in middle school.
Okay.
Yeah. So, like, I wanted to include lots of cool places because I think at that time I really enjoyed just, like, traveling and then, like, all the cool sights and stuff. And I was just like, I'm going to incorporate that in my writing. And then...
That's super cool.
Yeah. And then I was like, okay, so, like, how do I do this? And then it was like, but, like, it needs to make sense, so I need to map it out. And then, slowly, I was just like, you know, Percy Jackson doesn't belong here. You know what? Nico D'Angelo doesn't belong here.
I feel like a lot of people have had to, like, come to that realization in their life. They're just, like, they've decorated their apartment, it's so aesthetic, and they're just, like, looking at that one shrine of a wall, and they're like, Percy Jackson doesn't belong here.
Yes! That, and then, so I was like,
wait,
okay.
So real quick, so were you taking, like, from a lot of, like, different, like, books and stuff that you read, places that you liked in it, and you're, like, trying to make kind of like a literature version of Wreck-It Ralph?
So, kind of. Because I think there were aspects of, like, places in Europe that I'd been, like Trier, like... Trier is the third oldest city in Germany. Europe.
If I remember you saying it's underrated, right? Because it was a cool city, right?
It's really cool.
And you didn't have many like tourists when you went there, right?
No, because it's just like, now it's just like a regular city.
Okay.
But, I mean, like, they preserve a lot of the natural sites and everything. But, like, when people want to go to Europe, their thought isn't, oh, yes, Trier. And so it's just like, okay, I can use, like, that. I can use Kaiserslautern. I can use Ramstein. I can use, that little base. There was a air base at the bottom of Mount Fuji that we went to play softball, and I really liked how the town was set up and how pretty it was.
Yeah, especially at the base of Fuji.
Mm-hmm. And so it was just like...
Big mountain.
I probably shouldn't use the real names of these places. I should make up names and then also probably add some stuff to it
yeah, totally.
that make it more original, but use those as the base.
Real quick, speaking of base, when you said the base of Mount Fuji, did I ever tell you that, like, I saw Fuji from, like, a distance where you can almost see all the mountain?
You did.
Okay. Yeah, because the mountain's super cool in the fact where it's like, so, like, a lot of the mountains in, like, North and South Carolina, there's just a ton of mountains. I feel like Mount Fuji is a little more unique in the fact where it's just like, nope, that's kind of the one. So when I was coming back from Garo to Tokyo, it's right across from, like, a plain along, or not a plain, like a valley.
Yeah.
So it's like in Minas Tirith and Lord of the Rings when you see that shot of, like, Gandalf riding up and then, like, Minas Tirith is in the background.
Yeah.
I was, like, that distance away from Mount Fuji going along. But instead of Gandalf, it's just like a dude in a car going up to the mountain, and it's really small because the mountain's really big.
Yes.
So you were combining things, but you had to rename them. How did you decide how to rename them? Anagrams? Is this where your hate from anagrams came from?
No. I just have no talent for anagrams.
I mean, I'm with you.
I have no talent. I hate in TV shows how they're like, this is an anagram for this. I'm like, is it though?
Or whenever somebody's like, clearly an anagram, I'm like, clearly not.
Yeah, oh my gosh. Like in Harry Potter, the second one, where it was like, you fool. My name is an anagram for I am Lord Voldemort. And I'm like, Thomas Riddle. I am Lord Voldemort. You're lying to me.
I feel that way about anagrams every time.
Yeah, I just was like, okay, let's think, what's a name that I could find in both the real world, but then also, like, I like Tolkien names. Tolkien's cool. Like, what's a cool sound that Tolkien has? He has a lot of ears and
I totally get it.
Yeah.
So did you just, like, on the spot have to make all of them up with a bit of research? Did you use Google Translate for any of them?
No, I didn't. I just made them up.
Do you remember what any of them were?
Nope, I threw them away.
So let's see. What was my process for them? Zenra. I think that one I just like came up off the top of my head. Though I mean, obviously, the city of Queens, the city of Harlem. These ones I'm very original.
Yeah, I've never
Same.
heard those before. Those are great.
Same with the dwarf city of Moria. It's just I'm a very original man.
Now that one's stolen.
We only acknowledge stealing if it's from Tolkien. Anything else doesn't matter. It's not popular enough.
Exactly. Harlem's not popular enough. Get good, Harlem.
Yeah, so I guess for me that was a lot of times I would just blanketly take something. If anything, it was just because to me it's like when you have like decorations and you see something that's like, I like that color. Mm-hmm. I'm just using that color. Mm-hmm. I think that exactly what you were saying, like names have a good sound.
Yes.
And so there are some things where if it's like, hello, nice to meet you, my character is Aragorn. That's a step too far because then you can't get away from the name.
Yes.
But then I think with something like Queens and Harlem, we are in Northwest Florida. It is safe to assume that a lot of the people here do not have deep ties with New York neighborhoods.
Yeah, watch him get all fired up. You talk about Manhattan this way. Boy, I'm gonna flip off.
And I think, and then I know that for a lot of the other parts of the human settlements, I named them after like Roman and other like really old European things. What would you can I refer to like Rome as being a European civilization?
Totally.
Okay. I don't know my history well enough to know if like Europe came around after Rome fell, like the creation of. Would people commonly consider it that? Or
It's part of European history.
Okay.
Ancient European history.
Okay. So then, anyways, so those I specifically did because I wanted it to like be human and people be like, I get it. The halflings have a little town called Bristleshire, which
I love it.
that one I made up on the spot in a previous D&D game when I was playing a character, and I was so happy about it. The DM was like, okay, well, fine. Where are you from? And then I did one of the few times I was original and just like spun a yarn for like 7 minutes talking about like some tragic backstory in Bristleshire where I was just trying to make it a better place, but I just kept running afoul of the gangs there.
Aww.
And so I've had to leave town to make myself a better man. And even though I'll never be accepted back in Bristleshire, I still send my gold back there so that my pa can keep on living. I basically made him Samwise Gamgee. They couldn't go back.
One more step and I'm the furthest away from home I've ever been.
Oh, I gotta get this gold to the gaffer.
Me old gaffer.
Me old gaffer. Frodo.
Come on, Mr. Frodo.
Come on, Mr. Frodo. Eric, I think, actually had a D&D character who was a cleric that he called Samwise. And I can't remember, I think he had like a joke where like someone would be like, is this a smart thing to do? And he's like, my name is Samwise, not Sam Dumb. It was pretty great.
That's pretty good.
And that was from the same campaign where I had the halfling from Bristleshire. So that one I had the benefit of just thinking of previously and then just being like, whatever, I can still use that. The orcs, I think I named Kurstak. And that one I actually went out of my way to like make a system for the orcs because I was trying to that was a similar thing, like in the same way that I constructed the landmass where it's like I have a meaning and I just need colors and words to represent the meaning, which made it really easy. And then the dwarves and the elves were the exact same thing of like, I need this to sound dwarfish or sound elvish, and I don't know how to do that. So for both of those, I think I ended up using translators, which is where I got Trojanheim from, which is just one of my favorite.
That's a cool
It's one of my favorite words
It's
now.
a really cool one.
I love Trojanheim.
I mean, Heim is Nordic. Super cool. And Trojans are just also really, really cool.
Yeah, it has that ring of it where it's like you don't know any legend with the name Trojanheim, but when somebody tells you, yeah, a guy named Trojanheim did great things, you're like, yeah, duh. The guy's name is Trojanheim.
Yes.
Yeah, and I think that really shows in the fact that the elves are like the least interesting part of Zenra for me, and the fact that they're the most just like I have to fill something in.
You're just a Tolkien elf hater.
Yeah, maybe if when we did the campaign and got over to the elves, maybe I would have liked the elves more. Maybe I'll just make an elf plague, and then at the end of the age, kill all of the elves.
Oh my.
So then somebody's like, "What's over there?" Mass elf graves. I can't figure out how to do anything with them. So, like any good fantasy author, apocalypse.
They're the forgotten race.
I thought that. So then, how did constructing landmasses go? Was that something that you ever had difficulty with? Something that you found like rewarding from doing, or was that kind of just like part of the dirty work that you had to do in making a map?
Landmasses, as in like the actual like this is the continent.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because I feel like that can like that helps you tell a lot of your story, right? Because then in your mind you're like, okay, I've got Percy Jackson and I've got Harry Potter and I've got Lord of the Rings. Now Percy Jackson lives next to Harry Potter, but neither of these guys live next to Lord of the Rings.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess so. The thing that got me to stop writing was when I realized I'm like, my character, my protagonist, my main character, it's just the me that I wish that I was. It's just the Mary Sue.
Okay.
The Mary Sue character. And so, like, in constructing the landmasses, it was, where do I want to go next? Where would I want to go next? I just came from the ocean. I want to go to the mountains.
Ooh, what was your ocean thing?
My ocean thing?
Yeah. Because Moana wasn't out yet. So.
No, it was like, it was to where my main character was the daughter, a weird, like, mix of Hawaiian mythology, the daughter of Pele, but then also somehow mixed up with Poseidon.
Oh, that's pretty cool though, man.
Yeah. And so, like, my grandma who raised me was Tutu Hina. Hina of the Fire is the mother of Maui.
Okay.
And so, like, I was, like, mixing all that up. And so...
all this still sounds, like, super cool. Do you know, like, how great it would have been, like, in, like, actual Percy Jackson if, like, Percy finds out he has, like, a sister. And he's like, oh, sweet, so your dad's Poseidon. Who's your mom?
Oh, just the volcano goddess Pele. It was a bad relationship.
That'd be super great.
Yeah.
I'm gonna cough now. It's totally not COVID.
Cough.
COVID cough. Okay.
Yeah.
So then came from the ocean.
Yeah.
And so you were kind of just... so then I can't imagine that it was a straight line where it's like boom, boom, boom. But what did it kind of end up taking like a circle shape or something like that because of it?
No, I didn't think that much about it at all. I was just like, okay, let's draw a random shape.
Okay.
You know, like how the continents are. Draw out a random shape. This is where I start. It won't be interesting if I just go here. So I'll need to go like this way, and then I'll need to go like south a bit. Make my way east, because like I'm thinking like a path across America-ish.
Okay.
So, like, we're moving eastwards, but we're also moving upwards. Because, you know, New York, that's where Percy Jackson takes place and everything.
Okay.
Which is weird. And I was like, I don't know. I know Nico stops over in California, so, like, and there's, like, desert there. That counts.
Okay. So what made... did you draw a full continent, if you understand what I'm saying? Because, like,
did.
using the book example, sometimes it's like... I don't want to use this word just because I keep forgetting it exists. An archipelago. Where it's like, you know, it's just like part of it's water, but it's not completely surrounded by water.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, it was a whole continent, and I was like, okay.
Why do you sound sad? That's cool.
Because like I didn't want it to be America, but then solely like the fact that I'm basing it off of Percy Jackson limits it to America.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, and so that's why I was just like, I'm done. This is dumb. Scrap this.
Was this shape somewhat similar to America?
No, because America is more wide than it is tall. I did tall.
Okay. Wait, please don't tell me you just like rotated it.
No, I didn't.
Okay.
No, I didn't.
Because then Florida would be like America's nose. If you rotated it right, you can see it now. That would be weird, man.
Or America would be a dude.
Oh.
If we just...
Oh, dude, we got a beer gut. Okay. That's pretty cool. So you said, though, that, like, you realized your character was a Mary Sue. What was, like... What, if you're comfortable sharing, what makes you, like... Because I have understand when I have done something, right, of, like, and I'm trying to, like, create something... I, like, do the same circle, like, 10 times, and then on the 11th time, you're like, oh my god, I'm drawing a circle. Right? So what was it about that 11th circle that you were like, I have just made an archetype?
Probably the fact that everybody just naturally liked her.
Okay.
As a character. Like, there wasn't anybody who was like, you're not from here, or you can't just like show up and like you know, be the best at everything.
Yeah. Which is true of all like young adult book characters.
Yeah, and then
see Harry Potter. I don't like you, but we're best friends.
Yeah.
And I study way more than you, but you're way better than me.
You're arrogant, and you think you're the best at everything. I respect you for that. You just think you're the coolest. You just think you're the shit, huh? Well, you are. You kind of are. And I admit that. That's my character arc. I've been humbled.
my character is admitting that I like you.
Yeah.
Like, and in the same way that like most parents' role in books are just to be like, I love you, child. And like there's none of that like actual mentorship, right?
Yeah, just, child, I know you'll do the right thing. Because you're 14 and I've been keeping you in a bubble at home.
But that can be like a super hard thing to put in a character, and where it's like who likes them and who doesn't like them.
Yeah.
Because like at least I know in D&D, a lot of the times when people would specifically make reasons that people disliked their characters, it came across like Anakin Skywalker, except like bad. Because I saw a good post where like Anakin actually like does kind of just portray angsty young adult.
Yes.
Right, and it makes people uncomfortable because it's an angsty young adult, which typically makes people uncomfortable.
Makes everybody uncomfortable.
Yeah, when he says that, I don't like sand.
I hate the sand. It's rough and it's coarse.
Have you ever been around like a 17-year-old talking about something they just like and your thought was, this is poetic?
This is deep and I'm 14.
I forgot. It was like, I saw something the other day, it's like, it's not about what you look at, it's what you see. It's like, what do you mean?
It's the same thing. Well, I mean, okay, do you remember what
So it's not how you understand it the first time, it's how you understand it the second time. And then just watch and rinse and repeat that format.
Do you remember what I said about the Manic Pixie Dream Girl and young Tiani? When we watched Eternal Spotless of the...
I remember
mine.
I remember us talking about that, but I just remember talking about how that actor was the original one. Mm-hmm. Good old Titanic.
Mm-hmm.
And
Kate Winslet.
I think you just said that was what you wanted to be.
Yeah, that magnetic, magical girl. That one that just like people were drawn to, like and it's just super light. And so, like, it was literally, I walk into camp and everyone's like, oh my gosh, you're the best.
No, I get it.
Dude,
I get it.
you're cool. Like, do you wanna come over later? Things like that.
Dude, that, like how that happens in
My
college.
Nico stand-in was like, hey man, I don't know why I'm talking to you right now, but
I just have to say this
I don't
vocally.
know.
My wife is poking me by saying Nico stand-in. I have a feeling it's me.
I was a sophomore. That was like...
And that character came out to be homosexual, and you're running a fanfic, which increases the
Remember,
odds of...
I refused to read that book, so in my mind, he's untainted.
You were practicing how to deal with J.K. Rowling before J.K. Rowling was a thing.
I
If I don't
just
read it, it doesn't...
stopped reading my own books.
If I don't read the tweets, it doesn't happen. Or don't read your own books. Get somebody else to write them. Though, and I mean... That's one of those things where you cannot fault somebody for wanting to be magnetic. Like, I feel like college is the experience where, like, you're negotiating and talking with people and you're, like, trying to understand if they have, like, passed that boundary of self-understanding or not.
Yeah.
Because some people in college are super chill and they're like, yes, I've got this hobby, and some people like it and some people don't. And both of those people are just fine and okay, and I actually kind of just want to do my hobby. Mm-hmm. And then other people just like, nobody understands! Charcoal drawing is where art is going, okay? These people that think that, like, pastels are in don't understand Bach. Pianos are the greatest form of music, and it's only black and white keys.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, but funnily enough, I think that kind of applies to, like, world building as well. Because when you're, like, making spots in the world, you know, you want, like, everybody to want to go everywhere.
Yeah.
So then when you want to make, like, a bad spot, it's like your villain is like, this place is just unreasonably awful to go to. So we have great place, great place, great place, great place, and hell. Yes. There's no place in between. Mm-hmm. Okay. But yeah, then just to revisit to the other point, making flaws that are, like, actually, like, and this is, like, one of those dumb things you say too much when making a character. What's a good flaw? Because
you're selfish.
Yeah.
You're a coward. Real flaws.
Yeah, and these things would be, like, legitimate flaws, and then you're, like, playing with somebody who has it as a character flaw, and it's just like, this is painful and terrible to deal with. I need a superficial one, which makes for character growth, but doesn't negatively impact your morals.
I'm too loyal to my friends. I just love too deeply.
But it's interesting, because, I mean, like, sometimes that is, like a decent route to go, but that requires... And this is where I think that, like, the story and characters come into play, is, like, the flaw has to, like, interface with the story in an interesting way. Because, like, let's say you have the flaw of caring for your friends too much, and your friends are never in danger. Then your character is just being unreasonable to everybody they meet because they're not their friends. Mm-hmm. So you have to put a friend in danger for the character to become interesting.
Annabeth, Grover, Annabeth again, Annabeth, and Annabeth. That's how the books go.
That is how the books go.
Grover was important for, like, one of them.
Poor Grover, dude totally got sunlight. I wonder if you ever, real quick, just so that I can understand how things work. So, actually, no, we're skipping that. I'm not going to ask about the definition of Greek words. So, I know that going, just so that we can do somewhat in lockstep, which we're completely out of, but just so that I can describe things. When talking about how we shaped the world, how I drew it is I don't remember how I got the overall shape, to be flat out honest.
I mean, it's somewhat hexagonal. The blocks are hexagonal.
Well, but I drew it. I still have the paper. I drew it on a piece of pad, and then I just translated it to it first. And so that one, I think I was just like, whatever, man. This is it's a largely rectangle shape, and I kind of just tried to. I really wanted I wanted the world to represent power struggles
Okay.
And so I just wanted the ways where things were organized to reflect like different ones. And so for people to like survive, there needed to be like natural barriers in place. So we have like the desert and the mountain ranges, just so that nobody is directly bordering somebody else.
Yeah.
Or if they were, like, let's say I think they're called halflings. Yeah, they're halflings, which are just hobbits. Halflings, actually, in Tolkien, are they ever? They're called halflings by other people.
Yeah, like the humans.
Yeah.
Like Sean Bean.
But in D&D, they're just halflings throughout. So the halflings just live in the human continent because they're effectively a minority. So I think
College Isaac was so much more thoughtful than sophomore Tiani.
I had a lot of time on my hands, and I had listened to a lot of D&D podcasts by then.
Okay.
And I will again say, nothing artistic about this. Nothing beautiful, nothing really inspired. And that really describes how I was at that time, where it's like, whether
there's
it's
so much more form to it. There's so much more form.
There's so much more form. But the only reason any of this is like really cool is just because it was stuff that like I had to make up as I was using it.
Yeah.
And so that then means that there's an app. I had the luxury of applying it. So like the relationship with like the orcs and the humans, when I was doing the campaign, they're dealing with like the aftermath of that war. So then that like gives me motivation to like care about the war. Because then otherwise I couldn't bring myself to care. See my earlier comments about the elves, where it's like they could not be there and I wouldn't care.
Yeah.
Elves are there so that if somebody wants to play as an elf starting character, they could.
It sounds kind of Guild War-y.
Kind of.
Like the Char and the men.
And honestly, honestly, I may have just stolen from that without thinking about it too much, because I took the age concept for it, so real quick, so that I have it on recording. It started out with the age of bears,
Woo!
Then it went to the age of titans, then there was the age of dragons, the age of gods, the age of man, and then that'll be the end of all ages. That I stole from Dark Souls. If you ever watch Dark Souls lore videos, they have cool things of where it's like the ages of what's going on.
We watched a few, but just of specific characters.
And I thought the age concept was always super cool, and so I did that.
It is pretty cool.
And then things like the dragons, yeah, I think I lifted that from Guild Wars. I'm like, oh yeah, these dragons are super cool. The gods killing titans, I just took from Greek mythology. But that wasn't because I'm like, oh, Greek mythology is the best. I wanted 2 sets of god figures because I wanted one set of gods to kill another set of gods, and I figured it would be confusing to have gods and gods 2.0. Titans and gods just sounded cooler.
Yeah, it does.
And then the bears, I just like bears.
Yeah. And I like that you have 3 of them.
Yeah. What was it?
Like we bear bears.
McGruffin, Lumpy, and Butch.
Yep.
And so, and I guess that was part of a main thing that I wanted to get to and talk about. A huge part of the world building is just like having things and then thinking up a decent reason for it.
Yes.
So like having, for example, with the bears, having the physical, spiritual, and time. I made that up after I had 3 bears and somebody asked me, why are there 3 bears?
Because.
Yeah. And a lot of that just comes from trying to, and it's why, like, I don't think that, like, you were doing a bad job with the original thing. It's just, like, coming up with an answer that's fun.
Yes.
Because, like, when you're watching, like, the History of Adventure Time, and it's, like, the 4 elements are slime, fire, ice, and candy. Yeah, like, there's no reason that candy is a fundamental element, but you can make it once, so why not?
Yeah.
Yeah, where it's, like, there can be a city called Moria and nobody questions it. And there's no winking. There's no, yes, we're Dwarf City of Moria. Yeah, no, it's just Moria and the dwarves are there and it's a good time.
Yeah.
And And I think that really helps with it, because I think that when sometimes the issue that you have, like when you're just watching with the Game of Thrones and you're trying to make it like super realistic and everything happens for a reason. When somebody's like, oh yes, I'm from Flibbergasted land. Somebody's like, okay, I expect to know the full history, the reign of kings, what they've been up to, and what their current heirs are.
What's their main export?
Yeah, what's their main export? And like, that's a lot. And it's a lot easier to just start out with what is needed and then work from there. Especially since the world I made was made for D&D. What's the saying? It's like you put points on the map and then you fill out everything in between as the players go. And it makes for much more natural world building. Which is way harder, which you don't get to do when you're doing a character-driven story, I think, because you're the one deciding what they do.
That, and then also, this would be, like, on my mom's laptop in, like, Microsoft Word that I hid in, 4 different folders because I stole that from how you used to hide notes on flash drives.
Except in that case, though, you can look at the recent documents in Word. That'll oust you pretty fast.
They never did. And then also, what's it called? I would do it when you and I weren't talking. Okay. When I was supposed to be doing school in the middle of the day, not super duper inspired or anything. Okay. Bad times. Bad times.
I got you. Though that was, I guess, going back to the system-driven approach, that was a lot of the reason why things that were really intentional about my world. It was because I expected somebody to be going and interacting with it. Like, for example, with Warlords. Yes. So then, like, in my mind, I'm just trying to make something that somebody can understand. And then they will hopefully start outputting things.
Yeah.
I guess it's why there's a couple things, like, in my world. There's the Scar, there's Trojanheim, and there's the Pit. Which I think those are some, and Queens. Those are my favorite places in the world, but that's because stories happened there. Things happened there, and so it's super fun for me to tell people about it. Because either it's something that players in my world actually did, or I had to make something up, and it was something that I actually enjoyed that I made up. Because I think that all things that we make up are not equal. I have made tons of characters' names, but there are specific ones that I like way more than others. Like Lamont.
I know a Lamont.
Lamont's a great... Wait, you actually know a Lamont in person?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. That's super great. But he's my favorite halfling thief who pretends to be a cleric.
Lamont was the funny guy in my English honors class at Navarre.
Oh, that's super cool.
Yeah.
What made him fun?
He would just say he had funny one-liners for all the books that we read.
Okay.
Because we would read a couple chapters. No.
Okay. No, that's fine.
Not at all. But I always thought I was like, Lamont. Classic Lamont.
I feel like a lot of high school summed up in one-liners.
Yeah. And middle school.
And life. It's not what you see, it's what you look at.
How can mirrors be real if our eyes aren't real?
Jaden Smith, is that you?
Wild.
Because I think, and it's, I think sometimes that world building and character building are like really interlinked. Because I think that sometimes you can think of character building as the same thing. So with world building, things happen in the world, but it always has to fit the shape of the world, or the event has to change it. So what I mean by that is, if there's a new race, they have to fit on an empty part of the map, or they have to take over somebody else.
Yeah.
You don't get to just say, okay, we have pygmy orcs. We have pygmy orcs on Zenra now. and they aren't anywhere, but they're everywhere. Then whenever you interact, you're like, what are you? Who did this? And so in that same way, I think that it's just fine to have like parts of your character that you figure out when you get there. But when you get there, it has to fit the character or change something. And so like one of the characters that I had, like or like Lamont, the dude just lies. Not because he is habitually lying and he can't tell the truth. He is simply in a situation where he can't tell the truth. He has been lying too much for too long, so anything that he starts telling the truth with will like very quickly unspindle the thing, right?
He's in too deep.
Yeah. So whether he meets somebody, whether he knows, he doesn't know, or he wants to know, he has to lie about it. Unless, of course, it's in some way that he can give up part of the lies. And so as long as I'm working inside of that framework, I kind of have the freedom to introduce anything.
Yes.
I just have to make sure I approach it properly. Because I think I was giving this advice to Eric the other day when he was talking about something. I don't know if you ever heard me, but he was talking about the timing of something, and I was like, it is never going to feel like there's the perfect time to do this, but that doesn't mean that after you do it, it will feel like that doesn't mean that it won't feel like that was the perfect time to do it. You know what I mean by that?
Yeah.
Yeah, and so I think that like character building works that same way, where it's like it's really hard to know like what's the perfect thing for the character to do, but then if you do it right after you do it, it's like, yeah, that made sense. That's what they would do. And so I think you can do that and not have like a giant roadmap for the character, as long as you have like a good understanding of motivation, or if you don't have motivation, how they interact with things.
Yeah.
And I think that decides a lot of what's a creative character, because it can be technically how you interact with things can be, I attack them. And then you could use the framework I just described and make a very uninteresting character or an uninteresting world. As different races interact with other races, they conquer them. The end. Hey, we interacted with the orcs. What are they doing? Trying to fight the elves. Now, who here is surprised? But then if you maybe make it a little stronger, a little more complex, like... Because actually, when I made the world of Zenra, was when I was listening to a lot of game theory, and I was going around with the idea of the best system is not the one that wins, but the one that has the most people playing. That was what I made Zenra for, was a reflection of that. So everybody is trying to create the best system. And so that's why humans and orcs and elves, they have like different ways of having society. And so that's why like the humans have a lot of the different minorities in them, because they're trying to just like coexist. The orcs are not trying to coexist at all, but the orcs are also still trying to find the best system. They're not saying that theirs is the best system. They're actively going against other successful people to see if their system is better, so that if they can improve their system, they can. And so since that's a little bit more of a complex of a process of trying to find the best system, that means that since it's a more complex statement, you can have more complex answers to it. Though I don't think you could apply that. Well, you could apply that to a character. It would take a little bit of a little bit of workshopping. Sorry, I don't know if I was avoiding the word workshop because I don't know if I had said that earlier. I just thought it. Okay, good.
You didn't.
I don't. I swear, when I was younger, I would stutter a lot. Now, I think something, and I have the thought, did I say it? and it's never like, oh no, did I just like insult somebody or like say something mean? Because like I try to curate my thoughts. How you keep from saying something dumb is you don't think something dumb. So that you can't just like turn that switch on. But if you just stop, like, while you're bored thinking of insults of somebody, then eventually that, like, habit goes away.
There's that, and then there's the very Christian thing of holding your thoughts captive.
And There's one too many jokes I can make on that. But yeah, that is a thing I've heard before.
I'm sure you have.
I remember though, and I guess we'll end with this because we have a good amount of material here, and you've been a wonderful conversation partner.
Thanks.
I know that you had talked about
Too much. You'll leave me now.
Nah. You'll leave me for the bed. Just because you want to lay down and read. You were talking about why we were dating long distance. You were talking about wanting to build a character. Is that is that an urge that you still have sometimes?
Yeah. I mean, a lot of, I think, interesting creative projects are things that are like writing about worlds, writing people. But then I think it's a real challenge to write interesting people. I think it's a real challenge to write, like, even if it's like just an interesting fantasy protagonist. Like, how do we make Mario more interesting? How do we make Link more interesting? And then, yeah. So, like, there are times where I'm like, I should do that, just for funsies. And then when I was younger, it would also be like, I should draw them too.
But that's super cool though.
Because like a lot of like when I was younger, a lot of it would be writing and drawing like I would like to like it's really easy to like come up with yes, they're very tall and they have sharp blue eyes. They're very cat-like and they have a very serious looking face because their brow is set pretty low, but that can only be like done once, and then any other there has to be something that comes out of their mouth or done with their hands. So it's like, how do I make this person real and interesting, this beautiful, wonderful person that I've thought up in my mind and I can picture very well? How do I make this person fleshed out with action and words?
Oh, yeah. No, I totally get that. And that's like, I think that's like really hard for a lot of people, whether it's a paper that you're writing, whether it's a character that you're making, whether it's a story that you have. You do it and you're like, I am so proud of this. I'm so happy with it. And then you hand it to someone and you're like, yeah.
Well, see, I never got to the point of handing it to anybody ever.
I know.
Gross. It took a very short time for me to be like, or delete, hide forever. I remember I used to even like have it on like my Google. Like, I would write in Google stuff on my phone. And then, like, a couple years later... No. I found it, like... when we were doing
I remember.
pictures. And I was like...
There was a scream. And I'm like, what? Is everything okay? And you're like, don't look! I'm like, oh, this is probably something she made when she was younger. This is the only reaction that gets anything like this. You could have, like, cut off your arm. And you would be like... hey, don't look. This might be bad. But fan fiction or something like
gross.
That. Yeah, fan fiction, like, ah! It's funny, man. Well, no, but I mean, like, I totally empathize in the same way of, like, I wrote that song yesterday, and I was, like, happy about it, and I think it's okay. And I also have the thought, why would I ever play this? You know? You do something, and you're happy with it, and then, like, there's that question of like, why am I going to do anything with this? I drew this.
How do I bring myself to share this?
Yeah, and it's like it's really hard. I think especially if you haven't done it before. I think it was the same thing I was saying with like a lot of these videos I produce. A lot of them I don't. The bar quality is low because if I made it higher, I wouldn't make them. I have to kind of just like spit it out so that it exists.
Oh my gosh, do we have an hour's worth of For the King?
Probably. If not, I'll just find a picture and I'll just slap it on.
Sick.
Though I'll probably be a little bad because with some of the For the King stuff, I'm like, this won't show up because I'll just probably be doing like 20 minutes of it.
I was surprised. I looked over, I saw 45.
Also, I'll let you in on a secret. Nobody who watches my videos actually watch them. I think even Eric just listens to them. I don't have interesting footage that I put over them. That nobody really watches my stuff too much.
I did used to listen to them before I went to sleep.
Oh, you might listen to this one again at some point.
I don't know. This one has my voice in it.
Your voice sound, you were willing to laugh at the thing. Your voice. How bad did your voice sound in the thing that we recorded before this?
What? It's so shrill. My voice is so much shriller than I hear it in my head.
So I think, and maybe that's like a good jumping off point for ending. I think that's the same. I think that there's like freedom in that though, and like looking. It's never pretty, especially like the thing with your voice. It always sounds better physically in your head, but then there's a freedom to being like, yeah, my voice is nasally.
Yeah. And
it has been nasally all my life, and it has not gotten in the way. The only issue is if I look in the mirror, I'm like, I don't have a nasally voice, and I am dead lying to myself. I can ask anybody, I can record anything, and I sound nasally. And I have more freedom than anything if I like understand that. And the same thing with like playing the uke or something like that. Like, hey, you play that chord wrong. The only reason you don't know this is because you're refusing to let anybody know. And so it's important to have like good relationships where you can like do something that's bad and people aren't like, boo, you suck. They're just like, oh, like I understand where you're at in life and what your experience is with this, which is none, and so something of this quality is just fine.
Yeah.
But understand, when you compare yourself to these things, you're vastly below them. And even then, I think there's a... and actually for me, I think that's like... That to me, that actually makes the world a better place to me. Because like going back to like the character thing, for example, you would read something like Percy Jackson, and initially you might be like, this is basic, this is so easy.
Yeah.
And then you try and do it, it's like, wait a minute, anything with the hero's journey has been done before.
Yes.
It's been done before. And so you did it, and even if you didn't like make it crazy, you made it readable. It's readable. That is a decent bar to cross. Then you read some of these other things that we read, like Indigo Star. And it's like, whoa, this is just amazing that somebody was able to write this character like this.
It's just so charming.
Yeah, you try and write a charming character, and it's just an asshole. And here is just like in the book, it's just like a 7-year-old girl, and it's just fantastic. And it doesn't, and it's not like one of those high fantasy books where you have to like live with the character for 300 pages.
Yeah.
Page 1, you're like, I love you and you're beautiful.
It's great.
It's great.
You give your teeth to the tooth fairy? What do you do with your teeth? Grind them up for witch's powder.
What do you do?
Duh.
What was the problem with King Tut? He walked weird.
She's a witch. I knew it. What if she heard you? She'll know I'll know.
Tom's also great, as is Indigo.
I like Tom.
Rose is still the best, though. So I think what it comes down to is like, your things should interact, and it's okay to not know where you're ending up when you start. And then, I guess, I always in life am continuing to understand how right my horribly wrong English Comp 1 teacher was when it was like, you gotta just throw it at the wall. But the skill comes in knowing how soon it is you can throw it against the wall. With Zenra, now I get to like take all the best parts and make it sound cool. with all the things.
It's legitimately cool.
But I get to discard all the things that my poor players had to interact with and be like, this makes no sense and is really boring. And then it never showed up again because they were right. And it's the same thing with life, and it's the same thing with our characters. Because then when you're interacting with something and it seems like it's starting out and it seems really cool, the reality is it's probably lived for a very long time and the person is just acting like it's a new thing. Oh well, we're gonna end that. Oh, look at that! Almost exactly an hour.
Ayo.
There you go. I say bye-bye.
Bye-bye.